Good morning, everyone. We are from Guimbal Group, presenting to you the lesson number 5, which entitled Leadership. First, let's start with the nature and importance of leadership. First, let's define terms. Leader is defined as somebody whom people follow and who guide others. Next, the manager. Somebody who is responsible for directing and controlling the work and staff of a business or a department within it. Next is the leadership, a process whereby an individual influences a group of individuals to achieve a common goal. So according to Kuntz and O'Donnell, they define leadership as the ability of a manager to induce subordinates or followers to work with confidence and zeal. And George Terry defined leadership as the activity of influencing people to strive for mutual objectives. Peter Drucker also defined leadership as the shifting of own visions to higher heights, the raising of man's performance to higher standards, the building of man's personality beyond its normal limitations. And the management was defined as the attainment of organizational goals and objectives effectively and efficiently. So how management is attained? First, we go on planning. We plan things. We select members of the group. We formulate our goals. Next, we organize. We choose for staffing. We choose people who belong to the management. Leading or directing, controlling of resources. So another definition of term is all about organization. It is a combination of various resources which are deliberately combined together to achieve some common purpose. So here are the attributes. There are four attributes of a good manager. First, the technical skills, the human skills, the conceptual skills, and lastly, the analytical thinking skills. So there are qualities of a good leader. First, a leader must have an integrity. Next, a leader is a people person. A leader is positive. A leader has the ability to communicate effectively. A leader has the courage. So you can see the difference of a leader versus a manager. First, a leader was an innovator. He or she ensures trust and results, make followers, produces change and movement. An administrator controls and authority, while a manager is asked about what and why, provides a solution, asked about how and when, makes strategies, looks for subordinates, creates order and consistencies. Characteristics of a good leader involves guiding and motivating. It needs subordinates and common sense, promotes interest at work, and needs supports for all. Characteristics of good leadership influences subordinates through personal qualities, dynamic and continuous process, and the leadership is situational. Another characteristic of good leadership is he or she assumes obligations, needs interaction with followers, achievement of objectives. So you can see the difference between leadership and management. Management produces order and consistencies, while leadership produces change and movement. Management establish agendas, set timetables, allocate resources, while leadership establish direction, create a vision, clarify big picture, and set strategies. Management organize and staff. They provide structure, make job placements, establish rules and procedure. While leadership align people, they communicate goals, seek commitment, build teams and coalitions. Management controls and controlling and problem solving. They develop incentives, generate creative solutions, take corrective action, while leadership motivates and inspires, inspire and energize, empower and subordinates, satisfy unmet needs. So there are three common types of leadership styles. First, the authoritarian or autocratic. Next is the participative or democratic. And lastly, the delegative or the free reign or the laissez-faire. First, the authoritarian or autocratic style. This style is used when leaders tell their employees what they want done and how without getting the advice of their team. The participative or democratic style. This style improves the leader including one or more employees in decision making, or both teams decide what to do and how to do it. Next is the delegative or free reign. In this style, the leader allows the employees to make the decisions. However, the leader is still responsible for the decisions that are made. A good leader uses all three styles. Depends on the situation and the ability of followers and the leader itself. Things that decide style to use include, first, how much time you have. Next, are relationships based on respect and trust or on disrespect? Who has the information? You, your employees, or you, or both? How well your team is trained and how well you know the tasks. Next is internal conflicts. And lastly, the stress levels. The type of task, is it structured, unstructured, complicated, or simple? And last, the laws of procedures such as safety or training plans. So there are 8 approaches of leadership. The first, transactional leadership. Transactional leaders dish out instruction to their team members and then use different rewards and penalties to either recognize or punish what they do in response. The pros of this leadership is confusion and guesswork are eliminated because tasks and expectations are next are the cons are due to rigid environment and expectations, creativity and innovation may be stifled. You might be a transactional leader if you frequently use the threat of having to stay late when you need to motivate your team. You're constantly brainstorming clever ways to recognize solid work. Your team can't wait to see what you come up with after last month's taco party. Next is the transformational leadership. Transformational leadership or transformational leaders seek to change the business or groups in which they lead by inspiring their employees to innovate. The pro of this leadership is leaders are able to establish a high level of trust with employees and rally them around a shared vision or end goal. The con of this leadership is environments where existing processes are valued. This desire to change things up can ruffle some feathers. You might be a transformational leader if you look at every single existing process with a discerning eye and a strong sense that it could be better. You're always encouraging others to get outside their comfort zones and push their own limits. You might be a transformational leader if you could burst with pride whenever you see a team member achieve something that was previously thought to be impossible. And number 3 is the servant leadership. Servant leaders operate with the standard motto, serve first and lead second. The pro of this leadership is this approach boosts morale and leads to a high level of trust, which result in better employee performance and a more positive company cultural overall. The con of this leadership is it's challenging. Constantly pushing your own needs and priorities to the back burner isn't something that comes as second nature for most of us. You might be a servant leader if you're known for asking, what can I do to help at least 3 times a day? You place a high priority on removing roadblocks and helping others get things done. You never think twice about helping out when you're asked because you know that your own to-do list will still be there when you return. The 4th approach is the democratic leadership. You might also hear this leadership style referred to as a participative leadership. Leaders in this category run groups and projects like, well, a democracy. The pro of this leadership is creativity and innovation are encouraged. which also improves job satisfaction among employees and team members. And the con of this leadership is constantly trying to achieve consensus among a group can be inefficient and, in some cases, costly. You might be a democratic leader if you think the best meetings are the ones where everyone has an equal chance to weigh in. You can't remember the last time you made an important decision without getting input from at least one other person. Number 5 approach is the autocratic leadership. Autocratic leaders view themselves as having absolute power and make decisions on behalf of their subordinates. They dictate not only what needs to be done, but also how those tasks should be accomplished. The pro of this leadership is decisions are often made quickly and strategically, and teams are kept on track as a result. The con of this leadership, employees can feel ignored, restricted, and in absolute worst of cases, even abused. You might be an autocratic leader if you think group discussions and brainstorming only show things done, and it's better if you make important decisions alone. You might be an autocratic leader if you dislike it when employees question your decisions. When you've said something that's final. 6th approach is the bureaucratic leadership. Bureaucratic leadership goes by the saying, by the book. So to speak, with this leadership style, there are prescribed set of boxes to check in order to be true leader. The pro of this leadership is there's a plenty of stability since this is systematized approach to leadership. Things remain constant even through personal changes and other shifts that threaten to rock the boat. The con is it's tempting to fall into the "we've always done it this way" trap. This approach can be inflexible and neglect to leave room for creativity and ideas for employees. You might be a bureaucratic leader if you frequently find yourself asking how your predecessor handled certain scenarios. You want to make sure that you're following the accepted procedure. You might be a bureaucratic leader if you always request confirmation that you're doing things right whenever you're tasked with something new. Number 7 approach of leadership is the laissez-faire leadership. Laissez-faire leadership provides the necessary tools and resources, but then they step back and let their team members make decisions, solve problems, and get work accomplished without having to worry about the leader obsessively supervising every move. The pro of this leadership is this level of trust and independence is empowering for teams that are creative and self-motivated. The con of leadership is the chaos and confusion can quickly ensue, especially if a team isn't organized or self-directed. You might be a laissez-faire leader if you hardly do any of the talking the project status update meetings. Instead, your team members are the ones filling you in where things are. You might be a laissez-faire leader if you're really only involved in most tasks and projects at 2 key points, the beginning and the end. And lastly, the approaches of leadership, the charismatic leadership. Charismatic leaders have magnetic personalities as well as a lot of conviction to achieve their objectives. The pro of this leadership approach is leaders are very inspirational and effective at getting an entire group invested in a shared objective. The con of the leadership is due to their intense focus, it's easy for these leaders to develop tunnel vision and lose sight of other important issues or tasks that crop up. You might be a charismatic leader if you're known for giving amazing rally troops types of presentation. You're usually the one elected to give toasts and speeches at various company events. And that's all. That's the end of the report. So, thank you and God bless.
Good day, everyone. I am here to report in our subject, Theories and Principles, or Ed 219. Presenter, Leia Hanivinang, and with my partner, Nelthea Hilario. Our topic is about leadership. So, in leadership, we will discuss the trait theory, the functional theory, and the situational theory. The trait theory. The trait theory of leadership focuses on identifying different personality traits and characteristics that are linked to successful leadership across a variety of situations. This line of research emerged as one of the earliest types of investigations into the nature of effective leadership and is tied to the great man theory of leadership, first proposed by Thomas Carlyle in mid-1800s. The trait theory of leadership rationale. According to Carlyle, history is shaped by extraordinary leaders. This ability to lead is something that people are simply born with. Carlyle believed that, and not something that could be developed. Carlyle's idea inspired early research on leadership, which almost entirely focused on inheritable traits. Carlyle's theory of leadership was based on the rationale that certain traits produce certain patterns of behavior. Patterns are consistent across different situations, and people are born with leadership traits. The leadership traits. According to the researchers, the traits most commonly associated with great leadership include: first, adaptability and flexibility. Effective leaders don't get stuck in a rut. They are able to think outside of the box and adapt quickly to changing situations. Assertiveness. A great leader is able to be direct and assertive without coming off as overly pushy or aggressive. Capacity to motivate people. A great leader knows how to inspire others and motivate them to do their best. Fourth, courage and resolution. The best leaders are brave and committed to the goals of the group. They do not hide from challenges. Fifth, creativity. Perhaps most importantly, great leaders not only possess their own creativity, but they are also able to foster creativity among members of the group. Decisiveness. A great leader is capable of making a decision and is confident on his or her choices. 7. Eagerness to accept responsibility. Strong leaders take on responsibility and don't pass the blame on to others. They stand by their success and take ownership of their mistakes. 8. Emotional stability. In addition to being dependable overall, strong leaders are able to control their emotions and avoid overreactions. 9. Intelligence and action-oriented judgment. Great leaders are smart and make choices that move the group forward. 10th, need for achievement. Strong leaders have a need to succeed and help the group achieve goals. They genuinely care about the success of the group and are committed to helping the group reach this milestone. 11. People skills. Excellent interpersonal skills are essential for leading effectively. Great leaders know how to interact well with other leaders as well as with team members. 12. Perseverance. Strong leaders stick with it, even when things get difficult or the group faces significant obstacles. 13. Self-confidence. Many of the best leaders are extremely self-assured because they are confident in themselves. Followers often begin to share this self-belief. 14. Task competence. A great leader is skilled and capable. Members of the group are able to look to the leader for an example of how things should be done. 15. Trustworthiness. Group members need to be able to depend upon the trust the person leading them. 16. Understanding their followers and their needs. Effective leaders pay attention to group members and genuinely care about helping them succeed. They want each person in the group to succeed and play a role in moving the entire group forward. Controversy on the trait theory. Early studies on leadership focus on the differences between leaders and followers with the assumption that people in leadership positions would display more leadership traits than those in subordinate positions. What researchers found, however, was there were relatively few traits that could be used to distinguish between leaders and followers. For example, leaders tend to be great communicators. Leaders also tend to be higher traits such as extroversion, self-confidence, and height, but these differences tended to be small. These are obvious flaws in the trait-based theory, while proponents suggest that certain traits are characteristics of strong leaders. Those who possess the traits don't always become leaders. Some have suggested that traits may due to situational variables in which leadership skills only emerge when an opportunity of leadership arises, such as in war during a political crisis or in the absence of leadership. Meanwhile, others have taken a contingency approach to leadership in which certain traits can be more effective in some situations and less so in others. Opinions may vary on what those traits are and to what degree they can predict success, if at all. Leadership in internet age. More controversial yet is contention that some people don't have the traits to become leaders. Such a belief inherently overlooks social and economic inequities that limit, if not entirely erase, a person's potential to lead. It also overlooks the changing economy and how leadership is defined when connections are today made both online and offline. As outlets of leadership continue to change, such as with social media and e-commerce, the traits needed to succeed are different simply because there are fewer intermediaries within this realm. The ability to influence is arguably more important than the ability to lead. While these traits are often linked to effective leadership, it is important to note that few leaders possesses all these traits. Generally, a strong leader will have many of these qualities, but aspects of the situation also play an important role in determining if people are able to lead well. In many cases, it is the interaction between these traits and the situation that determines leadership quality.
And now, let's proceed to functional theory. According to Hackman and Walton, 1986, and McGrath, 1962, functional leadership theory is a theory for addressing specific leader behaviors expected to contribute to organizational or unit effectiveness. This theory argues that a leadership's main job is to see that whatever is necessary to group needs is taken care of. Thus, a leader can be said to have done their job well when they have contributed to group effectiveness and cohesion. Functional theories of leadership are developed by studying successful leaders and identifying the actions and behaviors they show. Large studies with large amount of data make it possible to correlate what leaders actually do. For example, their actions or functions with their successful result. In the functional leadership model, leadership does not rest with one person, but rests on the set of behaviors by the group that gets things done. Any member of the group can perform these behaviors, so any members can participate in leadership. The functional theory of leadership places greater emphasis on how organization or task is being led rather than who has been formally assigned as a leadership role. One of the best known and most influential function theories of leadership used in many leadership development programs is John Adair's action-centered leadership. John Adair develops a model of action-centered leadership that has connecting circles that overlap because, first, the task can be only performed by the team and not by one person. Next, the team can only achieve excellent task performance if all the individuals are fully developed. And the individual need the task to be challenged and motivated. Adair's model challenged trait theory by focusing on what leaders do. He shown that leadership could be taught and did not depend on traits a person had. Functional leadership is a model that concentrates on how leadership occur, rather than focusing on who does the leading. Under this model, leadership is distributed function. People at all levels can participate in guiding the organization. One of the cornerstone of this leadership model is its focus on how instead of who. Example relevance to agriculture. Sometimes we read in newspaper that a farmer developed a variety which is very helpful of his region. He may not be selected leader, but due to his role, people will follow him for obtaining this technology, and he will play the leader role or solve specific problems related to agriculture. John Adair and his approach towards leadership. For him, leadership is concerned with interaction of three areas: task, goal setting, method, and process; team, effective interaction, clarity, and morals; individual, attention to behavior, feelings. Responsibilities as a leader for achieving the task. First, identify aim and vision for the group, purpose and direction. Define the activity task. Next, identify resources, people, processes, system, and tools. Incorporation, financials, communications, or IT. Then create the plan to achieve the task. Deliverables, measures, time scales, strategy, and tactics. Establish responsibilities, objectives, accountabilities, and measures by agreement and delegation. Set standards, quality, time, and reporting parameters. Control and maintain activities against parameters. Then monitor and maintain overall performance against plan. Report on progress toward the group's aim. And last, review, reassess, adjust, method, and targets are necessary. Responsibilities as a leader for the group. First is establish, agree, and communicate standards of performance and behavior. Establish style, culture, approach of the group, soft skill elements. Then monitor and maintain discipline, ethics, integrity, and focus on objective. Then anticipate and resolve group conflicts, struggles, or disagreements. Assess and change as necessary the balance and composition of the group. Then develop team working, cooperation, morale, and team spirit. Responsibilities as a leader for each individual. First, understand the team members as individuals. Personality, skills, strength, need, aims, and fears. Then assist and support individuals. Plans, problems, challenges, high and lows. Then identify and agree appropriate individual responsibilities and objectives. Give recognition and praise to individuals. Acknowledge effort and good work. Where appropriate rewards individuals with extra responsibilities, advancement, and status. Merits. Single real leader phenomenon is absent. Anyone can take the leading role. Focus on functions of the leadership. It can be used to describe job positions where an individual is expected to take leadership responsibility without any delegated authority. perfect for team leadership. Anyone can play the motivator role. Relative competitiveness among the members of the group. Greater employee satisfaction and commitment. Better quality products and services. Demerits. So demerits gives confusion and chaos among members. It conflicts among members. Management procedure is difficult. Less authority to make needed change. And power leader is absent. Next, we go through situational theory. Situational theory of leadership suggests that no single leadership style is best. Instead, it depends on which type of leadership and strategies are best suited to the task. According to this theory, the most effective leaders are those that are able to adapt their style to the situation and look to cues such as type of task, the nature of the group, and other factors that may contribute to getting the job done. Situational leadership theory is often referred to as Hershey-Blanchard situation leadership theory. After its developers, Dr. Paul Hershey, the author of Situational Leader, and Kenny Blanchard, author of 1 Minute Manager. Leadership style. Hershey and Blanchard suggested that there are 4 primary leadership styles. First is telling as one. In this leadership style, the leader tells people what to do and how to do it. Selling as two. This style involves more back and forth between leaders and followers. Leaders sell their ideas and message to the group members to buy into the process. Next is participating as three. In this approach, the leader offers less direction and allows members of a group to take more active role in coming up with ideas and making decisions. Next, delegating as 4. This style is characterized by a less involved, hands-off approach to leadership. Group members tend to make most of the decision and take most of the responsibility for what happens. Maturity level. The right style of leadership depending greatly on maturity level. For example, the level of knowledge and competence of the individual or group. Hershey and Blanchard's theory identifies 4 levels of maturity, including M1, group member lack the knowledge, skills, and willingness to complete the task. Maturity level 2, group members are willing to and enthusiastic but lack the ability. Maturity 3, group members have the skill and capability to complete the task but unwilling to take the responsibility. M4 or maturity 4, group members are highly skilled and willing to complete the task. Matching styles and levels. Leadership styles may be matched with maturity levels. Hershey-Blanchard model suggests that the following leadership styles are most appropriate for these maturity levels. So low maturity stands for telling or S1. Medium maturity stands for selling or S2. Medium maturity M3 pairs with participating M3, and high maturity pairs with delegating S4. So how does it work? More telling styles may be necessary at the beginning of the project, when the followers lack the responsibility and knowledge to work on their own. As subordinates become more experienced and knowledgeable, however, the leader may want to shift into more delegating approach. This situation model of leadership focuses on flexibility so that leaders are able to adapt according to the needs of their followers and demands of the situation. So the situational approach to leadership also avoids the pitfall of the single style approach by recognizing that there are many different ways of dealing with the problem, and the leader needs to be able to assess situation and maturity levels of subordinate in order to determine what approach will be the most effective at the given moment. Situational theories, therefore, give greater consideration to the complexity of dynamic social situation and the many individuals acting in different roles who will ultimately contribute to the outcome. So these are our references. I will end this presentation with a quote. Great leaders do not set out to be a leader. They set out to make difference. It's never about the role, it's always about the goal. Thank you and God bless us all.
Good day, everyone. As a continuation to our report leadership, we, together with together with my partner, Ma'am Gerald Victoriano, will report about the contingency approach, path goal theory, and MacGregor's X and Y theory. Contingency approach. The contingency approach is the management theory that suggests the most appropriate style of management is dependent on the context of the situation and that adopting a single, rigid style is inefficient in the long term. The contingency approach contrasts with other forms of leadership, such as trait-based management, whereby personality and individual makeup predict patterns of management and responses to given situations over time. Another management approach is style-based up, beneficial to organizations because of the potential for learning from specific situations and using these lessons to influence future management of the same or similar situations. The essence of the contingency approach to leadership is that leaders are most effective when they make their behavior contingent upon situational forces, including group members' characteristics, tries to match specific techniques or concepts of managing to the specific situation at hand in order to attain organizational objectives most effectively. A very special kind of approach which states that the success of a leader does not only depend on his abilities. The methodology of the contingency approach can be expressed as a four-step process. According to this theory, an individual can be an effective leader in one circumstance and an ineffective leader in another one. The contingency approach to management assumes that there is no universal answer to many questions because organizations, people, and situations vary and change over time. The contingency theory of leadership is impacted by a range of specific factors in the average workplace, including maturity level of the employees, relationships between co-workers, work pace, management style, typical work schedule, goals and objectives, standards for behavior, company policies, employees' work styles, employees' morale. Next one is the path goal theory, first introduced by Martin Evans last 1970, and then further developed by House last 1971. Based on Vroom's expectancy theory, in which an individual will act in a certain way based on the expectations that the act will be followed by a given outcome and on the attractiveness of that outcome to the individual. A theory based on specifying a leader's style or behavior that best fits the employee and work environment in order to achieve a goal. The goal is to increase the employee's motivation, empowerment, and satisfaction so they become productive members of the organization. Primarily concerned with identifying process that will allow each team members to meet their individual objectives or goals. Leaders who implement this model adjust their behaviors and expectations to positively affect their team's productivity. This goal requires the leaders to be extremely flexible in the leadership style. They will have to find a way to meet each team member's specific needs to assist them in reaching their daily or weekly goals. Focuses on improving employee motivation, autonomy, and satisfaction to increase their productivity within organization. The path goal theory is not a detailed process. It generally follows these basic steps. First, determine the employee and environmental characteristics. Next, select a leadership style. Focus on motivational factors that will help the employee succeed. Determine determine the employee and environmental characteristics, select a leadership style, and focus on motivational factors that will help the employee succeed. This table shows how the path goal leadership goes by. Leadership styles. First, the directive clarifying leader. This style is used in situations where the leader tells employees what is expected of them and instructs them on how to perform certain tasks. The theory states that this style is the most effective when employees' role and tasks are unstructured or ambiguous. Next, the achievement-oriented leader. This behavior occurs in situations where the leader sets lofty goals for employees, expects them to perform at a high level, and shows complete confidence in their capabilities. This style is productive in environments that attract high achievers such as hospitals, scientific laboratories, and law firms. Next, the participative leader. The leaders who use this style consult with their employees and ask for their input before making decisions. This behavior would be well received in a workplace where the employees are personally invested in the outcome and results of their work. And last, the supportive leader. This style focuses on the satisfaction of employees' needs and considers their personal preferences. A supportive leader is as concerned with the employees' mental health and well-being as they are with their productivity. This style is suitable for the environments that can be stressful or mentally challenging.
My topic is about MacGregor's X and Y theory. Douglas MacGregor, an American social psychologist, proposed his famous X and Y theory in 1960 book, The Human Side of Enterprise. The theory X and theory Y are still referred to commonly in the field of management and motivation, and whilst more recent studies have questioned the rigidity of the model. The referred two styles of management, authoritarian theory X and participative theory Y, MacGregor's X and Y theory remains a valid basic principle from which to develop positive management style and techniques. MacGregor's X and Y theory remains central to organizational development and to improving organizational culture. Theory X. Theory X, managers tend to take a pessimistic view of their people and assume that they are naturally unmotivated and dislike work. As a result, they think that team members need to be prompt, rewarded, or punished constantly to make sure that they complete their task. Work in organizations that are managed like this can be repetitive, and people are often motivated with a carrot and a stick approach. Performance appraisal and remuneration are usually based on tangible results such as sales figures or product output, and are used to control staff and keep tabs on them. This style of management assumes the workers dislike their work, avoid responsibility, and need constant direction, have to be controlled, forced, and threatened to deliver work, need to be supervised at every step, have no incentive to work or ambition, and therefore need to be enticed by rewards to achieve goals. According to MacGregor, organizations with a Theory X approach tend to have several tiers of managers and supervisors to oversee and direct workers. Authority is rarely delegated, and control remains firmly centralized. Managers are more authoritarian and actively intervene to get things done. Although Theory X management has largely fallen out of fashion in recent times, big organizations may find that adopting it is unvaluable due to the sheer number of people that they employ and the tight deadlines that they have to meet. According to MacGregor Theory X, management assumes the following. Work inherently distasteful to most people, and they have attempted to avoid work whenever possible. Most people are not ambitious, have a little desire for responsibility, and prefer to be directed. Most people have a little aptitude for creativity in solving organizational problems. Motivation occurs only at the psychological and security levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Most people are self-centered. As a result, they must be closely controlled and often forced to achieve organizational objectives. Most people resist change, and most people are gullible and unintelligent. Typically characteristic for an X theory manager are most of all of these. 1. Result-driven and deadline-driven to the exclusion of everything else intolerant. Issues of deadlines and ultimatums. Distant and detached, aloof and arrogant. Elitist, short temper, shouts. Issues, instructions, direction, edicts. Issues, threats to make people follow instructions. Demands, never asked. Does not participate, does not team build, unconcerned about staff welfare or morale. And lastly, proud sometimes to the point of self-destruction. One way of communicator, poor listener, fundamentally insecure and possibly neurotic, antisocial, vengeful and recriminatory, does not thank or praise, withholds rewards and suppresses pay and remuneration levels, scrutinizes expenditure to the point of false economy, seek culprits for failures or shortfalls, and lastly, seek to apportion blame instead of focusing on learning from the experience and preventing reassurance. Does not invite or welcome suggestions, takes criticism badly, and likely to relate it from below or peer group. Poor or proper delegating, but believes they delegate well. Thinks giving orders is delegating. Holds on to responsibility but shifts accountability to subordinates. Relatively unconcerned with investigating and anything to gain future improvements, unhappy. Theory Y. The Theory Y managers have an optimistic, positive opinion of their people, and they use a decentralized, participative management style. This encourages a more collaborative, trust-based relationship between managers and their team members. People have greater responsibility, and managers encourage them to develop their skills and suggest improvements. Appraisals are regular, but unlike in Theory X organizations, they are used to encourage open communication rather than control staff. Theory Y organizations also give employees frequent opportunities for promotion. This style of management assumes that workers are happy to work in their own initiative, more involvement in decision-making, self-motivated to complete their tasks, enjoy taking ownership of their work, seek and accept responsibility, and need little direction, view work as fulfilling and challenging, solve problems creatively and imaginatively. Theory Y has become more popular among organizations. This reflects workers' increasing desire for more meaningful careers that provide them with more than just money. It also viewed by MacGregor as a superior to this Theory X, which he says reduces workers to cogs in machine and likely demotivates people in the long term. Principle of scientific management to improve employee motivation. decentralization, and delegation. If firms decentralize control and reduce the number of levels of management, managers will have more subordinates and consequently need to delegate some responsibility and decision making to them. Job enlargement. Broadening the scope of an employee's job adds variety and opportunities to satisfy ego needs. Participative management. Consulting employees in the decision-making process taps their creative capacity and provides them with some control over their work environment. Performance appraisal. Having the employee set objectives and participate in the process of self-evaluation increases engagement and dedication.